Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Planning Commission on March 12th to order. Madam Secretary, will you take roll, please?
Commissioner Becerra, Commissioner Verino, here. Commissioner Alderetti, Vice Chair Contreras-Leo, here. Chair McLaughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Mendoza, here. Commissioner Nguyen,
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Cynthia, would you lead us?
Your right hand over your heart, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started, I would just like to make note that I'd like to make the adjournment of our meeting in honor and memory of Hassan Hagani, who was the former executive director for the Planning Commission, who passed away over this weekend. So if we could memorialize that as a closing, I'd like to do that.
So move.
Thank you. Does any member of the public have any public comments on non-agenda items? You may fill out a request, and you have 3 minutes to discuss any items that you would like to that are not on this evening's agenda. At this moment, I have one card, Dale Helvig.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Dale Helvig. I represent the North Santa Ana Preservation Alliance. Just wanted to give you an update on where we stand with the 2525 main residential development. We had the scoping meeting on March 1st, and like everything else associated with this program or this process, we had a great turnout. We had almost 200 people attend a scoping meeting. I think it went well as far as things were considered. We got the word out. People are concerned about this project. They're going to be submitting their comments by tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, and hopefully we have more than 200 comments from citizens that are opposed to this project. It, as we have said before, is not the right location for this development. So we continue to oppose it, and we hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Are there any other public comments at this moment? Hearing none, we will close the public comments. We'll move to the consent calendar. At this point in time, I'd like to have a motion on the minutes. If there's anything that anybody wishes to change, please note that. But if we could have a motion on the minutes first.
So move.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We need a motion for the absence of Eric Alderetti. We have a motion for his absence.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Alderetti's absence.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now move on to the business calendar. Please be advised that the action of the Planning Commission shall become effective on the day following the first regularly scheduled City Council meeting after a 10-day appeal period, unless, if allowed by the Santa Ana Municipal Code, an appeal to the City Council is filed with the Clerk of the Council, and a copy is sent to the Planning Department within 10 days of the date of the Commission's actions, or unless set for public hearing by the City Council. An appeal from a decision or requirement of the Planning Commission may be made by any interested party, individual, or group. At this point in time, one of the things we're going to do this evening, because I know we have a lot of people here that are here for item number 3, so I'd like to, for expeditious purposes and not having you sit around for the entire evening, we'd like to go and start with item 3. Having said that, At this time and place, item number 3, conditional use permit number 2018-02 to allow the construction of approximately 46,000 square feet campus for Christ Our Savior Parish located at 2000 West Alton Avenue. Do any of the commissioners have anything they would wish to disclose regarding this item?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to disclose that I am an active member of Christ Our Savior Parish. My family and I financially support the church building fund, but I do not hold any position nor any decision-making regarding the church.
Thank you, Ken. Cynthia?
Same thing. I'm also a parishioner of the church, and I feel that I can be unbiased.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. All right. If there's no other comments, Jerry, would you like to do your presentation?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This item was brought to you as a study session about 2 weeks ago. Basically, it's for the approval of a master plan for Christ Our Savior located at 2000 West Alton Street. I'm going to go ahead and skim through the presentation, and then if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those at the end of the presentation. Just to give a background of the location of the property, it is located within the general plan of low-density residential, and it does have a specific development known as SD number 4, which approved originally the development of a much larger facility back in the early 2000s. The parcel itself is approximately 7.7 acres, and currently there are 2 modular offices that are serving currently the church and its functions. In terms of the project location, project description, and the site plan, the developer is proposing to construct this in 2 phases. Phase 1 consists of the construction of a approximately 18,000 square foot church with approximately 1,250 seats, as well as the construction of a 5,900 square foot parish center and a 4,600 square foot conference building. Phase 2, which will then be constructed approximately 2 to 5 years after the initial phase, will be for the construction of a 15,000 square foot parish hall. So while the construction is happening, the existing modular offices will serve as the parish halls for the Christ Our Savior Parish Catholic Church. In terms of development standards, the applicant complies with most of the development standards, or actually all the development standards. In terms of building height, the requirement minimum is maximum, it's 85 feet. The maximum allowed in terms of building height is 150 feet. The applicant's way below that proposed or established building height. And they also comply with all the setback requirements and are exceeding parking requirements. So this is the proposed site plan as previously discussed with you 2 weeks ago. So you have more or less phase 1, where you have the church to the top of the site plan, and then towards the right you have the parish center. To the bottom of that you have the meeting halls, and then the existing modular offices. Phase 2, you see the elimination or the removal of those current modular offices and the construction of the 15,000 square foot parish hall. In addition to that, most of the campus is surrounded by landscape, and then you have some common corridors and entryways from the parking lot that more or less lead to the gathering courtyard in the center of the master plan. So again, this is just a floor plan of the the proposed facilities. So again, to the top you have the church, to the right you have the parish center. At the bottom of that is a proposed meeting building room, and then to the left you have the parish hall. These are some of the renderings that were originally seen by you all 2 weeks ago, so nothing has much changed. This is just a different view of that, and then an inner view of the courtyard facing the church. That pretty much sums up my presentation. The applicant does have some additional renderings that he would like to present to you all this evening.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions of staff at this time? Lynette?
Jerry, I didn't see anything. Is signage, is that scheduled to be in phase 1 or phase 2?
There will most likely have some signage on phase 1, but that will be reviewed under a separate permit.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jerry, thank you. Would the applicant at this point in time like to comment on the project? If you've got some renderings, please bring them up.
Good evening. My name is Father Steve Perez. I'm the pastor of Christ Our Savior Catholic Church, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to be here with you. Just bear with me. I'm used to talking with people facing me rather than people behind me, so especially these people behind me, which are my parishioners. So I'd like to acknowledge that this is just a small sampling of the parish community that we represent here tonight. I'd also like to just take this moment to thank all of the members of the City Planning Commission for your suggestions, especially from the last study session. This has been a long process for us, and we are hoping that we're coming to the end of this process. For myself, I've only been a part of this process for the last 4 years. For many of the people who are sitting here, they've been with this project from the very beginning. So what I wanted to do tonight was just go over a little bit of an overview of the history of the parish, and then I was going to turn over the rest of the report to our architect. First off, just wanted to just give a little bit of background as far as like the Catholic Church's presence here in the city of Santa Ana. The Catholic Church actually has 9 parishes here in the city of Santa Ana, and that's actually by far the largest of any of our cities here in Orange County, the largest number of parishes that we have anywhere. The next closest city doesn't even come close to half of it. So to say that we actually do have a presence here in Santa Ana, just wanted to say that we feel very privileged to be able to serve and minister to the people here in Santa Ana. We have a major high school, Mater Dei High School. We also have a retreat center, Heart of Jesus Retreat Center. We have Catholic Charities, which is also under the umbrella of the Diocese of Orange. And in addition to those number of different organizations, the number of parishes in the city of Santa Ana have grade schools as well, and they also have outreach programs, ourselves included. One of the outreaches that we actually serve is every third Sunday of the month. We actually have a food collection, and we take that food to the Doris Cantley Center, which is not that far away from us. Doris Cantley Center is attached to Catholic Charities. So just to say that we have a presence here in Santa Ana, and we have a desire to minister not only to Catholics but non-Catholics as well. Just wanted to underlay that. As far as the history of the parish, in the early 2000s, as Jerry said, the Diocese of Orange started to do a study, especially in the county of Orange, and started to look at different places in which there was a great need to build new parishes. And one of the areas that was identified very quickly was in South Santa Ana. Around the same time, our former bishop, Bishop Todd Brown, had an interest of actually building a new cathedral, and so he decided to couple the two projects together, and he decided to make this a cathedral project. But it wasn't going to be strictly a cathedral, it was going to be a cathedral parish right from the very beginning. In the year 2000, the land was actually bought from the Sakerstrom family with the idea that a parish would be founded there. And from there, the parish project began. In 2005 was when the parish was actually established, and by July 1st, the first rector of the parish was Monsignor McKiernan, and the first Mass was celebrated in September of 2005. The first Mass was actually celebrated in Jim Thorpe Fundamental School, and for the first year, there was 2 Masses that were celebrated there, one in English and one in Spanish, but it quickly outgrew the need for that particular area. And so another Mass was added until in 2006, the location was moved from the Thorpe Fundamental School over to the Sakerstrom Auditorium, where the crowds continued to grow and grow and grow, until finally in 2008, it was decided to move the parish location to where it is currently at. And the parish facility that was built and that is currently there actually serves the different parish ministries and needs. Currently, we have 7 masses that we celebrate in 3 different languages. We have a number of different ministries. We have 150 religious ed students. We have 150 students that are preparing for confirmation. And we have a number of different programs and ministries that we actually serve every night. In fact, in this last year, we actually had to open up the office so that it's open every single night of the week. When I first got there, the parish office was only open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a little bit on Saturday and a little bit on Sunday. And now we are open every single day of the week. We have, in our October counts, every year the diocese requires us to make a count to see how many people actually attend Mass, and we have actually counted as much as 2,000 people who have passed through our doors on any given Sunday, especially during the weekend of October. Our neighbor to the north, Immaculate Heart, which is found on Center Street, actually services 10,000 people on any given weekend. And over the last couple of years that I've been attached to the parish of Christ our Savior, the previous pastor, Father Ed Peckin, had expressed a great desire, a great need for us to be able to expand our ability to serve the needs of South Santa Ana, because he did not feel comfortable enough in being able to provide the ministry for all of those people that were coming through there. Currently, right now, we have about 1,600 families that attend our parish. We have a number of people that are actually living in our area but do not attend our particular parish facility because they have said that they want to go to a real church, a permanent church. And so one of the things that we are looking at is because of the number of people that are constantly coming through our doors and the expansion of all of our different programs, the need for us to build a bigger facility. In our last planning session that we had, the city public hearing, I met a couple who actually lived in the area, and they stated just that they actually were parishioners at a different parish, and they didn't come to our parish just strictly because they wanted to go to a permanent church building. As far as overall, one of our goals and our desires is not just to minister to 3 language communities, but ultimately to 4. The Catholic deaf community actually currently celebrates their Mass at Mater Dei High School. They have joined us for a number of celebrations at our parish, and our goal and our desire is to actually to provide a permanent home for them as well as permanent ministry for them. This past year, we added a second priest, a part-time priest, a parochial vicar, because the needs of the parish has become so great that it's actually surpassed just the one priest of being able to serve the needs of the people. So with that in mind, I'd like to call forward at this time David Pfeiffer, who is our architect from Domino Studio.
Thank you, Father. Appreciate the help.
Yes. So, good evening again. David Pfeiffer. My office address is 2800 3rd Avenue, San Diego, California 92103. I've had the pleasure of working with Christ Our Savior Parish for over 2 years in the development of what's before you this evening. And before I get through the presentation, I'd just like to espouse what Father Perez said, and thank you for your comments last time. And with what we've put together, a more comprehensive, illustrative presentation that hopefully will address the concerns we heard and more clearly articulate our responses to those comments. And in a very general context, I'd like to just start by talking about the history of the Catholic Church and its commitment to beautiful places, places of quality, places with very thoughtful liturgical art throughout. That's part of how we celebrate our faith. And these places are built for people, the constituents, the parishioners for which they serve. And this project was developed with those overarching themes in mind. I'm going to point you to the slideshow here. Jerry discussed and Father discussed the history of the property. We have just under 8 acres left for the parish development itself. To the north is Alton. To the west is the high school and the YMCA. To the east is residential development. As Jerry described, it is a phased project. In phase 1, we'll have 417 parking places. In phase 2, we'll have 488. That's phase 2 well exceeds the required parking. Phase 1 was purposefully designed so that the parish can maintain operations during the construction. Churches can't just close down for 12, 15, 18 months during the course of construction. So it was thoughtfully planned so they could occupy, see if I can do this, no. The existing spaces here while the construction is underway on the campus. We went through a process with city staff, with the planning department and other departments through the development review process. We started that in October of 16, and that concluded just a couple months ago. So it was a long, thoughtful, and a lot of back and forth, and this project is very well vetted through various departments of the city, through the parish, and a lot of back and forth to get the appropriate responses to all the concerns voiced. And what's before you today is the culmination of all that work. In that process, we did lots of presentations within the community and opened that out to the greater neighborhood and held public forums to solicit input. Jerry covered the buildings, but the church is up here in the top left. It's about 19,000 square feet. There was a question last time about the parish center. That really is the offices. That's about a 6,000 square foot building. There is parish meeting spaces, self-explanatory, a little under 5,000 square feet. And then in phase 2, the modulars will go away. We'll up the parking numbers to that 488, and they'll build a parish hall that'll be about 16,000 square feet. These blue arrows, this campus is a centralized cloister of buildings, and there's 3 primary ways into the campus. And from a liturgical standpoint, we like to design the site plans of a religious campus in layers, where we try to leave the secular world and enter the sacred world. So there's purposefully these 3 portals that you enter the campus. And then once you are into the campus, there's a central gathering place, and that is really, I call it the social life of the church. There are other spaces where you go to meetings, but everybody goes to or through that courtyard. That really is the heart of the parish, heart of the campus, and all good things happen in that courtyard. The courtyard has over 12.5 trees in it. There are formalized benches that are built out of concrete, and there's opportunities for informal, I'll call more tables and chairs that can populate that space. And then we talked about the cloister. We've situated the buildings so that they create an edge to this courtyard. And the point of that is twofold. One is to keep the activity of the parish internal to the parish and not disturb our neighbors. But to the west, we said the high school, and they have some noise that generates Friday evenings, and we just wanted to protect some of the more sacred, quiet spaces from that influence. So this is the first. We've created some new views for you at eye level, and at a high level, this, as Father Perez said, this is a parish of many cultures, 4 languages, and many, many other cultures. So that is one motivating force behind the contemporary architecture. Contemporary architecture speaks to all communities of the world and not necessarily one more strongly. So it's a very universal language. The architecture here, I've got some material samples in a later slide, but there's 2 colors of plaster, and then there's some richer materials that articulate particular accent pieces. The roof lines are horizontal, so we can add solar in the future. At a metaphoric level, if I may be so bold, is the 3 strong roof lines of the church are symbolic of the Trinity of Christianity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then digging deeper into that metaphor, those 3 solid forms are connected by glass, which we call light. So the Trinity is connected by really the energy of light. We highlight this slide. This is one of the portals, and you can see it has a rich material. It's actually a terracotta tile. Opportunities for some of the liturgical artwork here, enriched pavement material. At this portal, there's actually what we call a tabletop walkway, so the pavement actually comes up 6 inches, so the pedestrians have a straight across accessible access. We're making the cars slow down to make that safer to enter this campus. Another view, the architecture here, I'm going to advance to the materials, and I apologize for this being turned, but in the top right of the slide are some of the pavement materials. So it's not just the architectural surfaces, but the horizontal surfaces. There are permeable pavers that are a concrete in a myriad of colors that are going to articulate that ground plane. You'll see in some later slides some very strong wood elements. And then the plaster colors, there's a deeper hue for the base and lighter hues up high. Purposefully, that is light. The massing of the building, I'll just advance, is there's a lot of play of ins and outs of wall planes. There's very deep overhangs. Where there are wall planes, there are articulations either into or out of that wall plane. And so what we're trying to do is really paint the surfaces with shadow and create the detail, the excitement, the visual interest in the building through sunlight with light and shadow. And these lighter surfaces allow that to happen. This slide starts to speak to some of the additional terracotta and wood elements you saw in the materials board. You can also see some of the built-in concrete benches and some of the, I called it non-formal seating that'll populate this courtyard space. We have taken some license and eliminated some of the trees from this rendering just so you could see, not just see a mass of green. A similar view, you can start to see, we use the terracotta elements at the primary entries at these special places where you cross the portals into the campus, where you enter the church. And you can see the wood on the deep overhang, creating that warmth. The doors will be a rich material. Liturgically, the main doors have great significance at Catholic churches. There's canons for what should happen when you touch those doors and you're actually entering the most sacred place. And I spoke early about liturgical art. There'll be liturgical art throughout the campus and certainly inside the church, but the abundance of glass allows that artwork to be seen both inside and outside. And this is a shot of the interior of the church. It's very preliminary, but you can see what we're trying to espouse here is the preponderance of the warmth of the materials, natural woods. There will be some liturgical art for the altar, ambo, crucifix. These will be one-of-a-kind commission pieces. So once again, getting back to the Catholic Church's commitment to the beauty and integration of art into their places. I have the plans just to help you recall. The church is about 19,000 square feet. There will be about 1,200 seats in pews and an additional 50 in the choir for a total capacity of 1,250. In the pews, the 1,200 also includes, I think, 10 or 12 accessible places, accessible seats. Those aren't in pews, but they're accommodated within the seating area. And then the parish center, that is the offices. There are 2 shared meeting spaces there and the choir rehearsal room. The parish meeting space, flexible meeting space. A lot of people, when they think about a church, they think about Saturday evening and Sunday activity. The meeting rooms on a weekday evening, this is really where the life of the church happens. And these are let's call them really the life of the church. And then the parish hall in phase 2 will be a large gathering venue for dinners, receptions, and allow the parish to get together in a non-worship setting. So with that, I thank you again for your time and attention, and if there's anything I didn't cover, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Thank you.
Does the commission at this time have any questions of the applicant's architect? Patrice?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at the mitigation monitoring program report. Sorry. Under the mitigation monitoring program report, I'm trying to find the page, but here it is. Page 3-34. It was saying the construction's going to take place 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, correct? The project management, the construction.
The construction. I would. I'll accept
my
that.
question is, I think it includes Saturdays. I mean, do you think that maybe it could start a little later on Saturdays?
I don't have a problem with that. Usually construction doesn't happen on Saturdays unless there's a schedule problem.
Okay, and then the other question is, actually that wasn't my best question, but it says that the neighbors will be notified of when the scheduling will be. How soon will they be notified? Or what's the norm? Like the school to be notified of the schedule, the construction schedule, like how soon will the neighbors and the school be notified?
Typically, we require a 30-day notice
30-day
for
notice.
the surrounding residents and businesses to be notified of future construction.
Okay, and lastly, in the map, some of them are really hard to see, but I know you're going to keep the compressor as far away from the house. I couldn't identify it on any of these maps. Would you be able to identify it? I mean, it's not a big deal, but it was just a question to know where the compressor, the loud noise will be coming out of.
The mechanical equipment for the
Yes,
buildings,
where-
those will be on the rooftops
On
of
the
the
rooftop.
buildings behind screened parapets.
To minimize the noise?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions of the architect? Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
We have not.
Thank you. At this time, we will now open up for public hearing. If you wish to speak, you have 3 minutes to speak. I only have one card. Father, would you like to speak again, or you're done? Okay. All right.
I just wanted to say that I actually live right next to the parish, so we'll make sure that we don't start early.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm asking because I live in an apartment complex next to something that's being constructed, and my kids are like, we want to sleep in on the weekend, and it's 7 o'clock, and they're already.
Trust me, I want to sleep in on the weekend.
Thank you.
Okay. No one else wants to say anything for public hearing. At this point in time, we will close the public hearing and we will bring it back to the commission. This time, would there be a motion on this item number 3 or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have a comment. You know, the church, building a church in our city is provide a positive benefit to community in the city, and will help reduce crime, promote mental health and physical health, increase moral community obligation, as well promoting, as Father Steve Correct has indicated, promote charitable contribution and many more benefits to our city. Christ, our Savior Parish, have been providing play worship and gathering and education services to our community for over as Father Correct indicated, over 1,600 family, and I estimate that over 6,000 members of the parish. The granting of this conditional use permit will allow Christ our Savior Church to expand its services and audience. They have outgrown the current temporary facility. The proposed facility will support and direct benefit to the public welfare physically, emotionally, and spiritually. For that, I would like to place a motion to adopt resolution approving conditional permit number 2018-02 as condition.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Cynthia? Okay. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to mention something. I appreciate the architect bringing out the materials and doing a little bit more in-depth presentation on the architecture, because I had some concerns about that at our working session. So I do appreciate that coming out. I feel a little bit better about what we're going to see in the years to come. As I did say before, I think this is there's a great need in that area of town for a church. So I will be supporting the project. What I do have a concern about right now, currently, is that the current church banner is on the corner of Alton and I guess, is that still considered a raid or is that considered Jaguar?
It's off of Alton, you said?
Yeah, is it right? It's on the corner. There's currently a
temporary
banner, temporary
so
sign.
banners are only temporary and they're only allowed for a period of time. The applicant is proposing to install a monument sign during phase one.
Happen?
During phase one.
During phase one.
Correct.
But that's not going to happen for a while. Is that true?
That is correct, and we could check with our permitting division to assure that the banner has a permit.
So the only reason I'm concerned about it, not so much that it's there, because I know it's temporary, and it's it signifies that the church is there. So if you didn't know it, you'd find it based on that. But it's wearing, so it's wearing and it's fading. So I'm not sure at what point in time the monument's going to replace it, but I would like to see that be either the temporary sign upgraded, either just replaced with something new that says it may be exactly the same thing, but it is showing some wear and tear from the weather conditions. So that's my only comment regarding that. But thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. Any other commissioners' comments at this time? Patrice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank all the members of the church and community members for being here. This was a great EIR report, and I just want to commend you guys for doing this. The great traffic impact analysis was wonderful, so it looks like you put in a lot of time and effort. I will also be supporting this project, and I just wish you the very best.
Last but not least, I'd just like to say ditto to the fact that we appreciate that the architect has taken into consideration some of the discussion from the last meeting, and really would like to see this project move forward. Having said that, we'll take a vote at this point in time. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 6-0 with Eric Alderetti absent. Thank you.
Congratulations.
If you haven't received a validation ticket, please come up to the front and you can get a validation ticket. What? That's a no-brainer. Thank you. Make him happy. Let him go home. What?
Short item. Good job. You play lotto tonight too. Any other guesses you got coming?
Yeah.
Let me know, so I know how to bet.
Yeah. I didn't say
Right. That's what I'm saying. Whatever you think.
Yeah, I know. Okay, at this time and place, we'd like to discuss item number 1, conditional use permit number 2017-34 and 2017-35 to allow after-hours operation until 2 a.m. and the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption at Main Sports Grill Restaurant located at 2531 South Main Street. Do any of the commissioners at this time have anything to disclose regarding this item? Cynthia?
The applicant had approached me in regards to a question to the receptacle, and I just forwarded that information to staff.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Hearing none, we'll move on to the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Planning Commission Commissioners. Before you, we have 2 items: conditional use permit 2017-34 and conditional use permit 2017-35 to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption and the after-hours operation till 2 a.m. So again, this is 2 CUPs, one for the alcohol beverage type license 47 for the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits, and to allow the restaurant to stay open until 2 a.m. In addition to the conditional use permits, the applicant is working on various site improvements, and those will go are done ministerial. So staff is working with the applicant. The subject site is located in the General Commercial Zoning District. It is also surrounded by different various types of land uses. For example, we do have an auto retail repair service. We have a single-family residential to the east, and we also have commercial and industrial land uses. This is an image of the site plan as proposed. Like I said, it's an existing eating establishment. It's a standalone commercial building with surface parking in the front and the rear of the property, and both are accessible through both an arterial and non-arterial street. This is an image of the floor plan. In yellow, you'll see both the alcohol display area and storage for the alcohol beverages, and together they're under the 0.5 allowed in the zoning district. This is the current site photo staff did take recently in February of 2018. Okay. So the site did undergo a couple of, we did have a notice of violation. So in 2016, November 2016, the city did issue a site for an unpermitted dispensary. Since then, in January 2018, the restaurant, the Main Sports Grill, did apply for their certificate of occupancy, the previous use being vacated. Between January and February 2018, there was some site improvements. For example, the applicant did repave the parking lot. They did restripe, and they also any of the landscaping areas that were deficient, they were upgraded. In February 2018, staff did revisit the site once again, just to make sure that all the improvements were up to code and that the applicant had did the upgrades as previously mentioned. And then on February 2018, the state did conduct a site visit where they verified that the restaurant was not open and that they would stay closed until the CUP would be approved. As proposed, the site does meet all the standards of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. The use would allow both the alcohol and after hours would allow to provide a service to the community and the nearby residents of the city of Santa Ana. And the alcohol license will also encourage the opportunity for business growth for the private development. And lastly, the standards and conditions will ensure that the restaurant will not deviate from the planned operation reviewed under this application and will not become an attractive nuisance to the surrounding businesses and residents. With that, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve Conditional Use Permit 2017-34 as condition and Conditional Use Permit 2017-35. The applicant, Mr. Rodriguez, and the business owner are here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Scott. Does the commission at this point in time have any questions of staff? Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how is the applicant MLG Enterprises related to the actual operators of Maine Sports Grill?
Staff isn't aware of any relation, but I know that the applicant that submitted the application was Mr. Rodriguez. He's also here to answer that question for you, if you'd like.
Okay, and Mr. Rodriguez, so Mr. Rodriguez is not on the license?
From the research, no.
Okay, and then, so the previous license holder was Daisyland, and are they still involved with the property at all?
Not during staff's research. We did not find that the new license had any correlation or any ties with Daisy.
But I mean, as far as just the operation of the business, ownership of the property, does Daisyland have any ties to it at this time?
No.
None.
Daisyland actually owns the property.
Oh.
The property owners.
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
That's good.
And then, so when we talk about unpermitted uses on the site, so is it just the dispensary that was the unpermitted use, or were there any others?
That's correct. That was the only unpermitted use.
Okay, and you said that they began operation at the beginning of 2017?
So they submitted their certificate of occupancy first? Yes, in 2017.
Well, at what point in 2017?
January 28. Sorry. Certificate of occupancy, January 2018. So this year.
And so what we received from one of the members of the community, these pictures of flyers, shows that they were operating back in, I would say, at least the middle of last year.
So we did receive that email. During our research, we found that there was no active certificate of occupancy. So between the dispensary and the new certificate of occupancy, we didn't get any complaints or any complaints that would let staff to go do a site visit. We were only aware of the Maine Sports Grill when they submitted for their certificate of occupancy, when we then staff did a site inspection.
Okay, and then two other questions. So the ABC license that I saw online for them is a 48, which would not allow anybody under the age of 21 and would not allow any food. And given that they are, according to the staff report, applying to be a certified restaurant, are they going to then apply for a 47 or obtain a 47 license?
They're applying for a type 47, that's correct.
Okay. And then my last question is, you mentioned in your presentation that the ABC did a site visit, and that's, from my understanding, it's kind of a bigger deal because the ABC doesn't normally do that. They usually defer to staff from the city to do the work, other than the actual application for the license. Was there a reason why ABC made their way out to the site?
Typically, when these licenses from a 48, 47, they do conduct a site inspection. From my understanding and from what I'm aware of, is it's just their routine. And then they did notify us, which is how we found out that they conducted a site inspection.
Okay, and I was just kidding because I have one more question, and that is, so have they submitted their application then for the Type 47 license?
Yes, they have.
Okay, thank you.
Patrice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have very similar questions because this is my first time being on the commission where the information you have there is in addition to what we have here, because we didn't have that information that they had requested for permit back in January. Like, that wasn't in here. So my question is the same. I did look at the Facebook page, and they were promoting their business under the business name that they want to get the permit now. So that's one of my concerns, that they were operating without the permit. And the other one is they were also operating, without possibly an entertainment permit. Do we know that?
The applicant has submitted an entertainment permit. They're in the process of being reviewed by both the building department and the Orange County Fire Authority, and then we'll be the last department to review it as well.
Okay, so back in June, when they were promoting their events on Facebook, they didn't have an entertainment permit that you know of?
Correct.
Thank you.
Lynette?
I know I read the police description in the report, but it didn't specify the calls to that particular address in 2017. So if that information is available, I'd like to have it tonight. If not, then I would like to have it before I make a decision on this project or on this item.
A representative from the police department is here, so he'd be more than happy to ask that question.
You had a question on the calls for service to that location?
To that location in 2017.
I ran a report at the end of December for the 365 days previous. There was only 3 calls for service to that address, and none of them were significant. None of them elevated to the fact they needed a police report generated. So one was an observed assault, one was a traffic support, and one was a burglary alarm.
The assault, do you know what time that happened?
4:25 in the afternoon.
Okay.
But none of it elevated to the fact of necessitating a police report.
Okay, thank you. The reason I ask is because that would show that they were operating during that time frame. So that would be of concern to me if they're operating. And obviously there's some evidence that they were operating and had a grand opening sometime in June of 2017.
Phil?
One more question in regards to the site itself. So the building, from what it looks like, what was being presented to us, the building sits on the southern property line?
Yeah.
Bill, is it possible, can I ask a question?
Well, actually, can I finish, Ken?
Can we have a question? There's a question on the table right now.
So the question I have is, so next to that, to the south, is looks like a drive aisle, or like some sort of driveway. Is there some sort of shared easement for that driveway, or is that only for the, and I apologize, the acrobatic or whatever it is, the business to the south? Is that all their property, or are they sharing an easement with the main sports group?
The business owner did confirm that they are sharing the parking. For example, during the day, when it's less busy for the restaurant, the acrobatics can use their parking stalls, but then during the late at night, then the business will use the acrobats parking stalls.
Well,
so it is a share.
Well, no. I mean, is it a handshake agreement where the guy walked over and they said, "Oh, sure, buddy, you can use it," or is there something recorded, like a shared access easement that is on record, so that, because right now you're showing the site, and the site is what I see there, but if there is some sort of shared access easement, because part of my reason why I'm asking that is you've got the parking lot on the east side of the building that leads out into the Delhi neighborhood, and there's residential right across Cypress. So obviously you couldn't do anything to restrict that parking if there was no way to get back there. But with that drive aisle on the southern side of there, that's where I'm curious, because we can't, if for some reason we were to impose a condition relating to access, I don't believe we can impose a condition on somebody else's property. So right. With that being said, I'm wondering if there's some sort of recorded easement along there.
Commissioner, we don't have that information with us because when you apply for an ABC license for this, we don't require title reports. It's a streamlined process. Normally in an involved project, they're building something, we require the title report. We can check the title. In this case, there was not one required, so we can verify whether there's an easement or not on the property. Maybe the applicant may know that when she comes up and gives her overview.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ken, you had a question of the...
Yes, I do. Out of your 3 call for services, did you notice any type of alcohol beverage was sold at the premise, or an entertainment offer at the place of service?
The reports that I run, they run on address. They don't necessarily go into the specifics of what happened inside or outside. Many times this is just, it happens in the parking lot. So I just run the address, the 3 calls for service come up, nothing of significance, so there's no more in-depth code enforcement aspect to our police reports.
When the applicant applied for the ABC license or entertainment permit from the city, why the application be reviewed or be considered by the city? Could possible the applicant would allow to sell alcohol and offer entertainment at the premise?
Well, not getting into their certificate of occupancy, that's a planning question, but I know that the entertainment permit process is often entered into or originated before coming for your CUP, because it's a typical question that's asked. If you want to do these things, do you have an entertainment permit? It's like the chicken and the egg, which comes first. So more and more, they're coming in and requesting that entertainment permit so they can show the planning commission that they are in that process. Now, I believe this business had a Type 48 license at one time, which then lapsed, and then it went into misuse with the illegal dispensary. But now we're trying to come around and do a legal activity, and they're coming forward to get a Type 47 and offer restaurant services and upgrade their amenities, which improves that. So all those things are positive in our eyes, positive to the point where we would pursue an entertainment permit and seek a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission.
I'd just like to clarify one thing, though. I think one of the things that we're trying to do from a planning commission perspective is that it's not like the entertainment license comes sometime after the CUP's been issued. I think what we're trying to do is tighten that process up, where as we issue the CUP, we're also issuing it based on the fact that there is an entertainment license permit in place, and not pending. Okay?
True, and an entertainment permit doesn't require an alcohol license.
Correct.
This is just for the entertainment portion of it.
Correct. But we want to have that as part of the package, not as a follow-on, because what's happened is that we have a lot of the restaurants and such that have entertainment have felt that there's a time lag in there, and we're trying to close that time lag. Okay. I'd like to go back and talk. I'm done with you. I'm good. I'd like to go back and talk about the property line a little bit more, because as it was discussed in the beginning, the egress and ingress, it exists on the front of the building only, and the back of the building is a emergency exit, correct?
For the building, yes.
For the building,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we need to make sure that there is an understanding that this is a shared parking lot, because I drove past this facility yesterday, and the entire front portion of the parking lot was full. And the acrobatics, the acrobatics facility was, fully operating at that point in time. The back side of the parking lot was empty. And there was parking there's a line of parking missing, but there's parking against the building to the south of this facility. And then there's a two-lane driveway between Main and the back street. So I'd like to make sure we have that understood and clear as far as the parking, who's responsible and who has shared parking, and how does that work. Any other comments? Yes, Patrice?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask if there has been any requests for the restaurant to charge for parking, because what I've seen in some of these restaurant bars / karaoke night bars, some of them charge valet parking. Has there been a request for them to charge?
No, it has not been notified to staff, so no.
Okay. And also, in the report, it says alcoholic beverages will continue to only be sold in conjunction with the food purchase. So they're asking for us to allow them to close at 2 a.m. I think in one of the conditions it said they want to sell till midnight. I mean, I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but I want to know what time the kitchen's going to close, because it's my understanding that some of these people go bar hopping and they go to places that are open until 2, because a lot of them close at midnight. And then I'm just concerned that they will sell them the beer without the meal if the kitchen is already closed. So those are my concerns.
Bill?
In regards to the parking, so as we're talking about the site layout, and obviously there's some sort of shared parking going on here, I guess, do we know if they currently meet the parking on the site?
Yeah.
So this is a continuation. There was a previous restaurant, so the parking as is today with the parking centers, they comply. This site plan unfortunately doesn't show the proposed trash enclosure, but nonetheless they should be in compliance.
Wait, no, so the parking is it in compliance with today's standard if it was no previous restaurant, just they're applying for a restaurant, are they currently compliant with our parking standards?
I can double check that right now for you. I
Okay.
don't know it from the top of my head.
Because the reason why they're applying for a CUP is because their previous use lapsed, so I don't think they get an opportunity to grandfather in any sort of rights or privileges from the use 2 uses ago in between the illicit use. So that's why I'm curious if they actually comply today, and especially because, you know, if we're talking about the adjacent uses sharing this parking, I wouldn't feel comfortable unless something was recorded going forward. And also, I'm a little concerned, not that site is in question, but because we're talking about it, does the site to the south have ample parking for the use that's in there? I imagine if they obtained a legitimate C of O, they've had their parking confirmed, but if they're feeling the need to use Main Sports Grill, and Main Sports Grill hasn't been active for some time, and now they're going to reactivate and, you know, use their parking, are we going to create a problem here?
So as far as the parking for this site here, this has been determined to be a legal non-conforming site. Our code requires, or our court states that if a site's been vacant for a year, then it must be current codes. This site's never been vacant for a year. Although there's been a use out there that's illegal, it's still considered to be occupied, therefore the non-conforming still applies for this one. So our code says that a use must be vacant for a year. It's been occupied since years ago with the Bobkin Bar before then. Then it became a marijuana facility. Right. Then they opened up here without permit. So it's been occupied for no less than a 12-month period, for less than a year.
So we're giving them credit for an illegal.
That's what our code allows them to do.
Really?
Yep. That was a city attorney's interpretation several years back. Our code does not say legally occupied; it says occupied. So their parking is legal non-conforming. They're short about 2 spaces based upon our county.
So if we had a homeless encampment in there, then it's occupied?
It was occupied, yep. Until we tighten up our code, unfortunately, that's what we have to live by. So that's why the parking is not being applied here for this particular site.
Okay. Thank
Cynthia?
you.
If I understand correctly, the back side of the parking lot, they can exit into the neighborhood?
Yes, so there is access from the non-arterial street.
Have you received any complaints from the neighbors, the neighborhood, about that?
We did see an email from the Delhi community opposing the project, and it should be included in the...
Not just today opposing the project, but in the past, have you received any complaints in regards?
Not for this project, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, hearing none, would the applicant at this point in time like to speak?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Joseph Rodriguez. I've been working with this project here for some time, again, meeting with staff and getting their recommendations on moving forward with this project. The whole concept of the whole thing, again, was to revitalize that portion of the city. That particular building had been lacking a little bit of maintenance, of course. In order for me to move forward with a lot of these projects, I make some recommendations, again, to upgrade it and make it look more attractive, certainly with the recommendations from staff. The idea of this whole thing is to become more of a grill concept, and again, address more of the food concept and bring the Bolivian type Mexican infusion type to this type of restaurant, which is what the intent of the property owners, the business owners want to do.
Any questions of the applicant at this point in time? Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, has this site been serving food since the middle of last year?
They had been serving food. Again, the idea right now is kind of upgrade the food service.
No, I understand. I just want to know if they were serving food. And then my other question is, were they serving alcohol last year?
I don't know that specifically.
But you know they were serving food, but you don't know if they were serving alcohol.
That's correct.
Really? Okay, thank you.
Patrice?
Yes, I wanted to ask what time the kitchen is planning on closing.
I haven't spoken to their kitchen staff, of course, but my understanding is they're going to continue serving foods and then finger foods throughout the time they're in operation.
Okay, because again, on the report it says alcoholic beverages will continue to only be sold in conjunction with a food purchase. So I'm concerned that if they don't sell food past midnight, then we should probably have them close at midnight and not at 2, because obviously people are going to come in from other local bars around there on Warner and Main. I know there's a couple there that close even at 11. They close, I think, on Wednesday. So that was just my concern. And the other question that I asked to staff was, do you know if they're going to charge for valet parking?
Not to my understanding. That wasn't ever brought up in the application process.
Thank you.
And Phil?
One last question. So are you an operator of this site, or are you just representing the operator?
I'm just representing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Did you ever offer entertainment in 2017?
The application process, once again, once it was realized that we want to go into this type of concept, me as the applicant, recommended to the business owner to embark on that as well in conjunction with the CUP, so that we'll run concurrent and hopefully approve both of them.
But were they providing entertainment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Lynette?
Who is the owner of the actual?
It's a corporation. I think the name Daisy came up in conversation. That had to be inputted in the entertainment permit. So when we got those signatures, it was from Miss Daisy. And the corporation, yeah.
So the owner of the establishment, not the owner of the property, but the owner of the actual business, is MLG Enterprises?
Yeah, there's two. I think the MLG is the property owner.
Well, MLG is the property.
Yeah.
I thought it was Daisy.
Or Daisy. I think it's a corporation. Yeah. Yeah.
So is the property owner the same person as the
No.
operator?
No. Two different things.
Who is the operator?
The Helguero family.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
I'm sorry.
This is Miss Helguero. She could answer somebody.
I apologize. My name is Elizabeth Helguero. I'm the owner of the establishment, and I've been owning this type of business since I was 21 years old. I'm 49 now, and I have a lot of experience on this type of business. All my family has been running this type of restaurants, and we've owned a couple in Anaheim also, and now we decided to get this place here in Santa Ana. But the place, when I got it, it was closed down. So the activity that they had at that time, I wasn't involved in it. I came in practically, I want to say, by the mids of or beginning of April, May of last year. So we started doing all the process of the CUP because I practically ignored, I want to say and be honest, on not that I know, like I said, I have a lot of experience on the business, but I never knew that a business, when it's shut down for 2 years, And that Mr. Vincent explained that to me because I didn't know it loses all the grandfather. That's correct, and it loses all that. I didn't know that with all the years that I've been, and I didn't know also that the license 48, that's the one I went in as a business owner on this place. The city of Santa Ana didn't allow it anymore, so that I didn't know. So I had to learn that and went along with him. Was very scared because of everything that I practically invested everything you can think of in the place. I'm sorry. But with him along, I changed my license because I thought for a minute I had lost it all. And when he explained to me, he said, you can downgrade your license 48 to a 47. I went to ABC and asked if I can do that. And they said, yes, Elizabeth. I've owned licenses, liquor licenses, the toughest one, that it's the 48. It's only alcohol, 100%. No, it's only 21 and over. Right. And I have owned that since I was 21. And I feel maybe the same way right now that when I was questioned by Mr. Ted Vimiaga, that was the investigator at ABC, when he saw me applying for my first license, he asked me a question. He said, you're just a kid. How can you own a liquor license? And he said, I'm going to oppose to it. I will never allow you to have a liquor license because you're only 21. And he looked at me and he said, how are you planning on running it? And I told him, because I'm hungry for it. I'm going to work for it. I'm an honest person. My money's clean. And I have a way to prove that I'm getting the loan through my house and I'm buying my business. And I'm going to go forward with it. And I remember he looked at me and he said, looking at you, you're going to be a good businesswoman, and I will give you that chance of having a license, but I'll be watching you within the years. And we became very, very good friends till now. He's already retired, but he helps in the city of Belmonte. He does ABC there. And every time I talk to him, I tell him, I came along and I've owned already many liquor licenses. I have only had one violation in all my 27, 28 years of experience. And on that part, I feel very proud of me. But on the side that I'm saying I feel very ignorant is because Mr. Vincent showed me that I couldn't run a business when I didn't have a CUP. I have never applied for a CUP in my life because all the businesses that I have bought, they've been running, all of them, so it was just changed by ownership, corporations, and I've always done that. So when I got into this business that was closed down for 2 years, and they had a dispensary in there, and I didn't have no part of it. I wasn't the owner of it. So when I came in and came along all that, it had lost all the rights of being having the grandfather in the place. So when I went with him, he told me, you have to apply for a 47 or wait till September and get a new, go on the lottery for the licenses because the licenses are between 60 and 70,000. So I said, I can't because I'm already in debt right now, almost, I want to say maybe 250,000 because I'm paying rent on a place that it's been closed down. Because as soon as I found out that I wasn't supposed to be open, when he explained to me, I shut down completely, but I had to keep paying my responsibilities because I have a 15 to 20-year lease from Daisy Sarmiento, that's Daisy Land, the owner of the land. But we don't have no connection where she's not a partner of my business. She doesn't have nothing to do with my business. She's my landlord. I'm the owner. I'm the only sole owner with my corporation on the place. And with that being said, I'm sorry, but maybe we've been working on this with Mrs. Scarlett all the time, and I think she's seen me at the desk so many times because I've been so desperate of wanting to open. And when she told me we need repayment, I wanted to die because I thought that's the owner's responsibility, not mine. But nevertheless, I done it because I have a family that I have to support and I want to work. And I want to make a big change at that place because it's a beautiful property. But unfortunately, the owners from before never took care of it or never saw it that way. And I saw it, and she saw it. She walked inside with me, and I told her, look how I remodeled the whole place. It's beautiful on my eyes of how I done it, because I don't want it to be just like any Hispanic place that you walk in and you think it's a bar. I want it to be a place where you can walk in with family, with the wife, with the girlfriend, and have a nice, decent drink or food where you feel safe in the place. And like I said, I haven't had no calls as far as I know. Right now I'm just hearing the one of the 4:30. My alarm goes off all the time right now that it's closed because a lot of people go and pull it. So I have to send the police department because there's times that I'm far away and I can't make it. You know, I'm just trying to work with it so nobody goes in because they know I have everything brand new in the place. Regarding the question for Mrs. Mendoza, the place will have food, especially because there's a lot of companies in that's I think the owners before did not see it, and I have that vision because we used to own El Conejo Feliz in Anaheim, and we used to service to all the city of Anaheim, the restaurant, and they loved our food. But here, there's so many factories behind us, so many. You know, it's amazing, Old Dyer, all of those streets. But they don't have a place where to go because I used to work on that site. So there's only one place that it's called the Bumper Pickle, that it's on Dyer, that's where we would go and have our lunch, all of us. So now that I'm there, I say I'm gonna cater to all of them, do a lot of flyers to them to show them what I have and not just try to sell liquor, but I wanna sell also the food. So the restaurant, when we open, I wanna open it at 11 o'clock so they have time for 12:30, whoever comes at lunchtime. And then close down till the day that the time that the business will close. If it's 2 in the morning, the food will be served until 1:45. The liquor will be sold until 1:45 in the morning. And, you know, we have 15 minutes to get the people out. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. And I'm sorry if I broke down a little bit, but I'm too emotional because this is a project where I put practically everything that I've owned for so many years because it's a project where I brought my mom in with me, that she's here with me. I brought her in with me because she's 71. She used to own a restaurant, and I told her, sell it. And I'll sell my other business, combine it together so I can take care of you more. And now I'm going to make a comfortable office so I can have you closer to me so I can watch that you're okay. And that's what I done. So I'm with her in this project, but she's with me, more likely I can say, 24/7, that I'm watching over my mother. And not that she's not a strong lady, she's very strong, stronger than I am. But if I put myself right now, I apologize really for the tears, but it's a big project for me. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Any questions? I guess you have a question for staff. I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Joe, to cut you off. Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for staff under the conditions of approval. Number 5 says it shall be reviewed after 1 year, at which time a memo shall be prepared for the Planning Commission detailing any and all code enforcement and or police department activities on site. Is that because they were already operating without the permit, or is this the condition that we're going to put in all the permits that we approve?
This is a condition staff decided as a whole that in this case, yes, it's because of the previous unpermitted uses. We just want to make sure that we keep an eye on the property, and then we'll come back in a year to give you an update. And
second, I know there are some restaurants on Main between between Warner and Segerstrom. Do we know what time Yellow Basket closes? Does anybody know? It's on Main and Segerstrom.
I think it closes at 10.
Because I know the rest that are around there are fast food restaurants like McDonald's.
I think it closes at 9.
Del Taco. That one closes at midnight?
9.
Oh, I think it's like 9
p.m.
9 p.m.
9
Okay.
or 10, yeah.
All right. And then I know there was a food truck there on Main and Segerstrom as well. There was a very popular Oaxacan, I think, food truck But I just wanted to bring that up because, you know, there are other places where people can eat. I know she mentioned she wanted to be open for the surrounding areas, but I appreciate her coming here. I'm just a little concerned about how they've been operating, but.
Should we close the public hearing?
Bill?
Shall we close the public hearing?
We have not opened the public hearing.
Oh, yay, all right.
So let's go back. So there's no other questions of staff? Okay. Then at this point in time, Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
Yes. Yes, and they have been distributed.
Okay. Everybody has seen the distribution of the information?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this point in time, we'll now open up for public hearing. If anybody would like to speak at this point, you have 3 minutes. If you haven't filled out a card, please do so with the secretary. Seeing that we have no public comments, we'll close public comments in this time, and we'll bring it back to the commissioners.
Mr. Chair.
Bill?
I'm concerned from what I've heard thus far, from what I've read. We have a person who has professed that they've got experience running restaurants for a very long time. So that troubles me because in running a restaurant with liquor and having experience with liquor licenses, one would rightfully go and make sure that their items are in order. So that kind of troubles me that this is what's happening. And also too, you know, when we're granting these CUPs, these aren't a given. We're not a rubber stamp. These are up to our discretion. And I'm just, at this moment, I'm not 100% comfortable right now that we should be rewarding somebody who has operated illegally for quite some time. And it's not a matter of did we see it, did we not see it, or did they apply to the city at what point. We've got posts from Facebook that show a grand opening, I mean, back in June of 2017. And from what the young lady said to us at the podium here, she'd been involved with this business since the middle of last year. So I just have a little bit of concern at this point, but I'd like to hear more from my colleagues.
Any other comments? Cynthia?
I agree with Phil, and I feel that I'd like to hear and kind of wrap up the easement, and if there's going to be something in writing about the use of the parking, I'd like to perhaps push this out. And I don't know, I mean, if we're going to move forward after we get the information, I'd be possibly comfortable till midnight and then see how they do for a year, and then perhaps come back and reassess, just because I also find it hard to believe when you are in this business and you still, I mean, when you come to the counter here, I'm sure the staff give them information about permits and entertainment permits and what to do if you're going to want to go that direction. You do at the counter?
Yes.
Okay, so those are my thoughts.
Lynette?
Well, I have a lot to say about this one. I'm really perplexed because I think that there's a lot of breakdown here, and I really honestly want to give I believe the applicant. I believe what she says when she says that I think she was steered down the wrong road. Now, I'm not sure who she was steered down the right road by, if it was staff, because she's saying that this place has been closed for 2 years. It obviously has been closed since the dispensary was uncovered. But if it was closed for over a year, then it would have gone back to being not legal and non-conforming. It would have had to start all over, and there would have had to be a lot more improvements done. So I'm not sure where, if that is the case, then something happened in the city side, or if she was steered in the wrong direction by the owner. And we obviously know who the owner is, and there's definite connections to the political side. So I'm not sure where the breakdown is. I mean, I hate to even be up here having to talk about this, but that's what I'm hearing. And it obviously is very disturbing to me. I'm not sure how it happened or where it happened, but I think she got caught up in something that she was being steered the wrong way, and people were telling her to go ahead and do what she had to do. And she obviously sunk quite a bit of money into this place, and has been, and continues to put money into it, and I don't think that's fair to her. So I'm so perplexed about this because I feel like my colleagues, if you've been running a business for a long time, you should know. But also, if you have someone in your ear telling you something differently, you're gonna do the best, make the best decisions you can, and go the best way you can. And I feel horrible that she's caught in this situation, spending $250,000 on this place, not being open, losing money every month, and having to deal with us to get what she needs to get to open, and the circumstances of how she got here. I'm in a place right now that I want to give her the permission. I want to give her the CUP. I want to give her the entertainment. I want to let her make some money to recoup all her costs, and give her a chance to prove that she's going to run this establishment. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to do that tonight. So I would move for continuance so I could try to sort out some of these details. But I'm very disturbed by what I heard on this item.
Okay,
tonight.
Patrice?
I want to tell the applicant that we have heard similar cases. I remember one of the most recent ones, I think, was it Zamora's, the one on McFadden and Harbor, which was, an example that was operating, entertainment license, and they had issues with the signage. And I think one of the things that Phil said is, I don't want to award them if they've been pretty much operating illegally or doing things illegally. So I'm also caught up in between, like Lynette. I agree with Phil that we shouldn't just award them this license. And personally, if I did, I wouldn't keep them open until 2:00 in the morning. I got to tell you that. So just like Lynette, I'm just divided on this one. I don't want to award her, but at the same time, I don't want to take away that opportunity that she has of starting a business in Santa Ana. So I really don't know, just like Lynette, or can we actually vote on one and not the other? Because one is to stay open till 2, the other one is to issue the CUP. I mean, can we do that or no?
Yeah, you can.
Ken?
In every city have different ordinance and regulation and so on. Being the young lady, operating a business in different county, like Almonte, I believe, in LA County, and come down to Santa Ana, a different regulation, and she may not familiar with the terminology of the conditional use permit. I do know a restaurant operator, the owner, who have bought a restaurant in Santa Ana, and when the landlord told him that, we have ABC license, you can sell alcohol, and also we have entertainment license, you can do a nightclub here in our facility. And the investor came in from different state. He's not familiar with it, so he signed a lease and moved in and started grand opening with entertainment, with dancings and all that stuff, with outside alcohol, and then got shut down by code enforcement, and operating without proper license and so on. I do believe the applicant, and without aware of what condition, not without aware of the property, the location, have existing ABC license or not. But also, I'm in support with Lynette. I work with. There are a lot of issues unknown here, and it's very difficult for us to able to make decision this evening. If possible, we could able to approve the CUP, so with condition, with modification on the CUP, or maybe limit to open to midnight or something. At least give the lady a chance to open her business and then come back review by our staff a year or so. That's my recommendation.
Cynthia?
I'm a little confused. She has been running her business already, correct?
So let me clarify here. She has the right to operate a restaurant there,
Right.
by right. She can do that, and she can apply for an entertainment permit over the counter by right once she complies with fire and building code. So she can do that tomorrow.
But she's been running the restaurant already since last year.
Without a C of O.
Without a C of O, and also I believe what happened was she was confused. She was told by ABC that she had a Type 48 license, which is why she started operating. She didn't realize that she needed 2 licenses. She needed state license, which they never surrendered the license, so it's still active on the property. But Santa Ana, they never had a CUP, so they only had 6 months. And since there was nothing there within 6 months, she lost the right to sell the Type 48 license. So that's when we told her, you can go back and do a 47, because we no longer allow 48s. Those are bars. Don't allow bars anymore, but she can apply for a 47 license, which is what she's done. She's gotten rid of the bar license and applying for the ABC for alcohol as part of the restaurant.
I think to give her the full opportunity,
Just some
if we
confusion.
can push it out so then we can vote on both, just with the language of the parking use, I think it's a win-win, but that's just my
Mr. Chair.
my option.
Well, first of all, the public hearing's closed.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, public hearing is closed, so this is dialogue
Okay,
going
no,
on
I
with
just-
the commissioners.
I don't know if I can just say something regarding the parking lot.
I mean, we're in discussion right now with
Okay.
regards to the topic.
That's fine, thank you.
In all due respect, you had the time to talk.
Right, no, and
Okay,
maybe I
thank
just
you.
totally did not understand.
Thank you.
but-
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate what I'm hearing from my colleagues, and it's comforting, frankly, that we do want to see businesses open, and we want to give everybody the opportunity to open. But we're also charged with making sure that operators are responsible. And I'm not willing to forsake the local neighborhood safety just to see if they may or may not be good at this. Now, we talk about, well, maybe they were confused about the conditional use permit and the lapse in time. I can understand that, and that's fair, because 6 months in one jurisdiction, 1 year in another, understandable. But most jurisdictions require a business license. And I don't believe they even came in for a business license, because I know our staff is responsible enough to know that once they come in and apply for that business license, the first step that they would go to would be the planning counter to get clarification. And so, with that being said, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Verino saying that, perhaps the applicant was steered in the wrong direction. But the fact of the matter is, if you've operated in California, I don't care if it's El Monte, I don't care if it's Santa Ana, you know a couple of these things. You know a couple of these acronyms. The CUP this isn't the first time that someone ever said, hey, maybe with an alcohol license you should do a CUP. I mean, most jurisdictions require some sort of permit in the city. In fact, the ABC looks to the local jurisdictions for that. So there was no inquiry. There wasn't even an ask. So that to me is troubling. And if I was sinking a bunch of money into something, and maybe it's just my nature, but I'd ask a lot of questions. I would ask a lot of questions because, as I've said before on other cases before this commission, an ABC license is pretty darn valuable. In fact, I think we heard somebody say it can go upwards of $80,000 for the license, not even counting any fees or permits with the city. So to just say, oops, I didn't know, and oh gosh, I just didn't think to ask, that's one thing. If this was your first business, I'd be the first to say, gosh, it's a first time. But when someone comes up and says, oh, I've had years of experience doing this, but I never asked any of these questions in this jurisdiction, and I'm pretty sure I'd be willing to bet you Anaheim requires a CUP. So you wouldn't care to ask Santa Ana if they require a CUP? So again, I want to encourage business owners to open, but I want to see them do it responsibly. And I want to see knowledgeable business operators open, because I don't want to read about this business in the newspaper for something happening where they didn't operate responsibly. My conscience won't allow me to do that. I would be willing to support what Commissioner Contreras-Leo talked about in regards to a continuance where we can sort out some of these issues like the parking and other things. But I'll tell you right now, if there's a motion to approve this tonight, I will not be supporting it.
Okay, well, let me just say that I understand a lot of the comments that we've all made with regards to this. I think at this point in time, what I would like to propose is that we do a continuance. And I'd like to do a continuance on everything, because I think approving one item and not approving both items, I think there's a question about the hours. I think that should be something that we cover as part of our continuance. And so if we can do that, that's. Did you want to say something, Vince?
I'd be appreciative if we get some clear direction on what the commission is looking for the next
that's what I was getting to. So having said that, each and every one of the commissioners have made some concern tonight and voiced that concern. So I think what we need to do is, if we're going to make a continuance for, let's say, to start with 2 weeks, we have a continuance. What do we expect to come back? What do we expect staff to come back with? What do we expect the applicant to come back with as far as action items that we want to close? And if we can't do it in 2 weeks, then we need to look at a practical side of how we can take to, how much time it's going to take to answer all the questions that we have as concerns.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think I've heard enough tonight as far as certain operational circumstances regarding the site. But one outstanding item for me would be the issue of the parking and what the status is with the adjacent site and that, and then the reciprocal easement for access.
Can I just make a suggestion? If we can, I'll make the suggestion that we make a motion to continue this item for 2 weeks. And then I think everybody put in your questions and we'll make that part of the continuance, okay? So my motion is to continue this for 2 weeks.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Cynthia seconded.
Is it possible to let staff let us know, is 2 weeks that enough time for you to prepare any changes?
Well, we need to let staff know what those concerns are first before we ask the question, how long is it going to take? Because we haven't told them what we want to tell them.
Mr. Chair, I think it would probably be most appropriate for everybody involved if we let's just get it out right here. Let's not have meeting or emails.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it right here.
Okay.
I made the motion. It's been second that we have a 2-week continuance. Now, at this point in time, what would we like staff to review and have available at the next meeting in 2 weeks? So,
I've said my piece.
Well, could you, so that the secretary can pick it up as
okay, so the same thing again. So the parking and the status on the reciprocal, if there is a reciprocal easement on south of the property line of the site in question.
Lynette?
I like a chronological timeline of how we got here, from the time she signed her lease to the time to today, as far as how she spent $250,000 and hasn't had a certificate of occupancy, and also is now just applying for that. I'd like to know as well the timeline from ABC as far as when the 48 expired, who had the 48 before on that property, and how long that property has been was closed prior to her coming in and starting her establishment.
Sarah, you good with that? Sort of, kind of, good? Okay. Cynthia?
I'd like to see that the business would stay open till midnight, and then relook at it a year later, and then reconsider staying open later, just be due to all the events that have occurred.
Okay, and I would like to make sure that excuse me, Ken, what would you like to cover? Anything? Beatrice?
I would like to get more input from Delhi, because we received the correspondence from Chris Smith. He isn't from the Delhi Neighborhood Association. He's from Windsor. So I'd really like to get feedback from Delhi. I don't think he works there, but he certainly did mention them, and just get their input on what they feel about this, because we did get the correspondence from the business owner close to that facility saying that he objected to that. Thank you.
And I think for clarification, I'd like to even confirm that there has been some discussion with the Neighborhood Association and the applicant, so that we don't, we've gone down this route many times where the applicant has not talked to the surrounding neighborhood, and then once they do have the conversation, it's usually successful on behalf of the applicant. So I'd like to make sure that Lynette?
Oh, I forgot to add, I want clarification on the legal non-conforming and the rules there for when a property is abated, when it then becomes, it's a term. Correct. So can we get a breakdown of that just for clarification? I think that'll help understand some of maybe the parking easement issues? Because I know, Vince, you mentioned something like that. That would help me as well. Thank you.
And the question is, and this might be the deal breaker as far as 2 weeks ago, but how do we notify a larger area of homeowners? I mean, this property, as I saw yesterday, the east side of the property is the side where there's homes. Now, there's a vacant lot in between the first home on one side and the other home has got a very large wall around it. But that's the only section, east is the only side that is with single-family homes. And if we could have some kind of idea of the neighbors in that particular area, what their reaction is to this, I'd like to see something in that respect.
Mr. Chair, are you asking for the next hearing to be renoticed?
I think it would be helpful if we renoticed it, and we renoticed it for a larger radius than the normal 500 feet.
Steph, what is our radius now? Is it 300 feet?
500 feet.
500 feet. So what should we go out to then?
I'll go to 2,000 feet.
How many?
2,000 feet.
Yeah, we definitely have to go 4 weeks.
Wait, so from 500 feet to 2,000 feet?
500 feet. It is, but in order to get 500 feet, 2,000 feet, you got to go back. I mean, you're really only going to hit another 4 or 5 homes, but you're going to hit the homes that are in question.
Okay.
And we'd request 4 weeks.
Okay.
And we also need to check on the title report for the easement, which if they have a title report, great. If they don't, it's a couple of weeks to get a title report.
Okay. Any other items that we want staff to review at this point in time and we want to include in this continuance?
That's good.
Hearing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 6-0, and Eric Alderetti is absent. This is the time and place for item number 2, conditional use permit number 2016-01 to allow the operation of a K through 12 charter school, Citrus Springs, located at 2121 North Grand Avenue. Do any of the commissioners have anything that they wish to disclose at this time on this item? Hearing none. Staff, please present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. As you stated, the application before you this evening is for a new conditional use permit to allow a change of operations to an existing charter school on the property 2121 North Grand. So as I mentioned, this is a new conditional use permit to be able to add grades 7 through 12, which aren't currently offered. The existing charter school is only offering K through 6 and has been doing so for a number of years now. No new construction is being proposed, no physical expansion of the actual school at this moment, and the application requires approval of a new CUP. This is a image aerial view of the site, which is enclosed in a red line. The yellow line indicates the school operations on the premise, with the additional buildings being the church use on the site. Zoning is R1, consistent general plan of low-density residential, and the site is about 4.2 acres, surrounded by single family to the east, a single family house to the north, and a few along Grand. You do see a few of the other church uses, including the Vietnamese Alliance Church across the street, and there's also a intermediate school to the south with the post office directly to the north. And this is a site photo of the 2-story building component of the school. As you can see, it's freshly painted. A lot of upgrades have been going on in the last couple months, including roofing and paint, new striping, paving. This is a site plan. So the 4 buildings or so to the left, that's towards Grand Avenue. That's the church buildings, the parish hall. We also have, I believe, a sanctuary hall to the north. And then the actual school buildings are the 1-story and 2-story buildings that are located to the north, to the right of the parking lot, with a playground area to the east. As I mentioned, the expansion is not physical, but it's to allow additional grade levels, which the expansion of the grade levels and the overall site improvements that have been going on will provide a long-term social benefit to the community, as the facility will now include additional educational opportunities to the children in the area, provide that as a supportive and safe learning environment, allowing students to continue their education instead of moving on to other locations. No adverse impacts are anticipated as part of this application, as no building expansions are being proposed or tenant improvements beyond what is approved ministerially. And the site will continue to operate in compliance as it has for as long as the school and the church use has been in operation. And any conditions imposed on a school pursuant to Chapter 41 of the Santa Ana Municipal Code will be applied. And with that, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit number 2018-01 as conditioned. We do have representatives from the church, the charter, and the school use, the church and the school use to answer any additional questions that you may have. And with that, staff concludes presentation.
Does Commission have any questions of staff? I'm going to start with Cynthia on that one. Okay, Phil?
Okay. I didn't think so. Because it's becoming a charter school, will that follow the SAUSD calendar?
No.
Or guidelines?
It's a different calendar, and I believe if you have any education type questions, we do have a representative here that may be able to answer that a lot better than I can.
Okay.
Phil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to be clear, so there's going to be no additional students if this is approved?
The application itself is to allow the additional grade levels with the intention that when the sixth graders finish their year, those numbers or those students will now go into seventh grade with limitation on the earlier students. So at some point or another, you'll have a balance from K through 12, but no increase in the number of students. So it'll be, I believe, a transition period from when those students reached 12th grade, but no increase into the total number of students will be part of the application itself.
So just using hypothetical numbers, if they allowed 100 kids in kindergarten, next year they do the same thing. Once we approve this, all of a sudden that starting class is now going to dwindle to, say, 50 or 25 in order to balance it out across.
Right, theoretically that's and I don't have specifics as to how they're going to do that. That's a different implementation. Right. But if you want to have them answer that.
The other question I had was in the staff report, it talked about that this school had been at the site for, I think it was like 50 years or something to that effect. So, so this particular entity that's applying, they've been running the school for 50 years? Or, I guess because what I'm confused about is, I saw Chairman McLaughlin talk about, or motion that, it wasn't SAUSD approved. So I understand that charter schools are more of a, we'll say, a recent phenomenon, we'll say, than this century. So how could it have been in operation for 50-something years if the process for these charter schools has only been within, say, the last couple of decades?
So typically, to my research and understanding of the church uses on properties, typically they offer a school as a service, but it's almost like a private school, not typically associated with the school districts. So the operation on site has been there for 50 plus years, has always been like a private school.
I see.
So the charter is now, yeah.
So then the church has offered some sort of K through 6 service, if you will, but then now whoever's running this school now, it has come in the last couple of years, perhaps?
Right, and I don't know the specific date, but it
was
River Springs and now Citrus Springs. So,
and then my other question is, and it kind of seems like a theme today. So we've had. I looked at their website. I just did a quick Google search, and it looked like just a layperson who hasn't sent kids to charter school. I looked on there, and it said that they have services through 12th grade. So am I to believe at this point that they're offering 12th grade level classes already before they've even come before us and obtained the proper permitting?
I believe the applicant can answer that question a lot better than I can. It's almost in anticipation that they might be approved tonight before you and offer those services. They don't currently offer the 7 through 12 at this point.
Oh, okay. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Patrice?
It's along the line that Phil was asking if there not going to increase in numbers of students, but just grades. So what happens if someone wants to take the first grader there? I mean, there is going to be more students unless they're being turned down. So I want to know a little bit more about that. But because with that, you know, I would like to see some sort of traffic report, because I live there on Fairhaven and Grand, and I got to tell you, getting out of Fairhaven onto Grand, I mean, I'm there for 15 minutes just to get on the 22 to take my kids to school. So that's what I want to know. But the question I have for staff is now, and I hope we do have some research or information, is about do we have data on the number of charter schools that have closed in Santa Ana? Because I know some have closed. I used to go to a church for many years on 17th and English, and I know they closed, and the kids were left behind, you know, nowhere to go. So do we have that data?
That was not part of the review that was done for this application, but I'd be happy to come back with some information for you in a future meeting regarding charter schools and any that are open or have been closed recently.
Thank you. The other questions I have are for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? All right, hearing none, would the applicant like to come up and speak at this point in time?
Hello, I'm Dr. Hermsmeyer. I am the superintendent of the Springs Charter Schools. I'm pleased to be here today. Thank you very much, staff, for recommending approval on this project. We would love to be able to offer high school classes at the center. Just to clarify some of the questions that I heard come up, we are at kind of an unusual charter school in that we partner with our parents to provide a hybrid program. We don't provide 5 days a week in the classroom. We provide a mixture. So we use this center as a, we do have some children. We have a program that's at the center with, of the 13 classrooms, we have, I think, 6 or 7 classrooms that are 5 day a week for K through 6th grade. But we use the other classrooms for students to come in 1 or 2 days a week for enrichment classes or support classes, special ed services, English learner services, and things like that. We are sponsored from the Orange County Department of Ed. We went to Santa Ana Unified School District twice about 4 years ago to get our charter approved, and they denied us both times. So the second time we went ahead and appealed that decision to the Orange County Department of Ed, and they approved our petition, which is a totally legitimate legal way of being authorized. So a lot of times people are authorized either by the county or the state on appeal, and we were authorized by the county on appeal. So we're legitimately there. We do serve K-12 currently. We don't. We serve the high school students through independent study, and we have visiting teachers that go out to families' homes. That is what we call our homeschool program. We have thousands of children in that program, not in Citrus Springs. We have about, 300 or 400 in Citrus Springs. No, actually, I'm wrong on that number. I think it's actually more like 150 in Citrus Springs because we have a variety of charters, and they're regionally placed. So our largest charter is in Riverside County, sponsored out of the Riverside County Office of Ed. And there we have a couple thousand. So we are familiar with how to run independent study, but our parents really do want the option of being able to bring their children in to take their algebra class or their geometry class live at the location and get that core instruction. So I don't know if did I answer all your questions?
No, I'm going to ask. So,
yeah.
First of all, what I'm understanding from the hybrid aspect of this, you're homeschooling and you're also online teaching.
Yes.
So you've got a hybrid at this point in time. So technically, this question that's been asked about enrollment in becoming larger, it
Right.
will become larger because.
It will become larger, but not at any one time. So we will keep to the requirements, the limits of the CUP. And of course, the site only can hold so many students anyway because we have 13 classrooms. But we don't offer 5-day a week for the majority of our students. We only have a small subset of children that we offer 5-day. That's not going to expand because we want to use the center for a continuum of services, anywhere from, like I said, the drop-in special ed services for kids who need that are homeschooled primarily, all the way to, the kids who come in 2 days a week for physics and pre-calc.
Gotcha. Now, you are, as you said, a charter that's been approved by OCDE. I'm assuming that you have received acknowledgement from them as to this new change in your business plan, and they've approved it.
Yes.
So you have a second approval of this.
It is approved. It was approved to begin with. We always had the intention to come to you for a CUP to expand this particular facility. We already currently serve high school students through home study. So we're in Citrus Springs. We go out to the homes and serve our high school students through home study. So that is already in existence. So that what we would like to be able to do is offer classes at the center.
So your business plan that was approved originally by OCDE
Right.
was K through 12?
K-12, yes. TK through 12, actually.
Okay. Phil?
So, no, you did not answer all my questions. I'm still a little confused. Okay, so the hybrid is essentially some kids come into the campus and then the homeschooled kids, correct?
Right.
Okay, so why did the Santa Ana Unified School District not approve your application?
That's a good question. We believe that we had a very good charter petition. The first time around, they gave us 8 or 10 pages of reasons why we didn't have a reasonably comprehensive description of all of our programs. We are long operators. We've been operating charter schools for 18 years, so we know what we're doing. We took the charter back, thinking that they meant those things that they said, and we revised and revamped and added a couple hundred, I think 235 additional pages of detail, comprehensive description to the charter petition, and we resubmitted it, and it was denied with a very vague reasons. So we believe.
What were those reasons?
That we didn't, the same thing. We didn't include enough description of how we were going to teach our English learners or special ed students, or they didn't like the curriculum. We didn't include a scope and sequence page for every single grade level, for every single subject. That was the kind of, I can send you, if you're interested, the list and our responses to those lists, because we spent quite a bit of time on all this. But when it was reviewed by the Orange County Department of Ed, they found that it was a legally compliant, sound educational program, demonstrably likely to succeed. They reviewed it with the same matrix and found that it was quite adequate. And in fact, they don't approve. Orange County Department of Ed does not approve every charter that's on appeal there. So, but we've been in business now with Citrus Springs. I think this is our 4th year. So
this is the 4th year at the current campus?
4th year at the campus, right.
Okay. And then my other question is just, so what brought you in for the CUP? In other words, and maybe staff can help me on this, or maybe you can, but so you're operating for the past 4 years. Mm-hmm. You just one day decide, maybe I should apply for a CUP. I mean, what triggered it? Did staff come out? Did you go to them?
It took us a little while to figure out exactly what we needed, exactly what the limits were and what we needed to do, as well as the fact that we were initially focusing on our homeschool startup, as well as the fact that we really wanted to build our money for the upgrade in our the facility did not have air conditioning, and it needed a lot more I don't really know the details, but it needed a lot of money to be spent in order to have air conditioning because of the electricity issues. So anyway, so we were focusing on that first.
Okay, staff.
We always, by the way, our high school population is our lowest population, because a lot of high school students want the traditional parents don't feel as equipped to homeschool high schoolers for maybe good reasons, some of them, and so they our homeschool, our enrollment drops after 8th grade.
Okay. Staff, I was curious, so what triggered the need for them to come in for the CUP?
With the previous entitlement only allowing K through 6 and the intent of offering above grade levels from the 6th grade, a CUP needed to be approved specifically allowing that. And so we couldn't modify the old CUP because it's been so old that a new one will umbrella over the current operation and allow K through.
So the previous CUP then was specific, allowing
Yes.
up to 6th grade?
Yes.
And then I guess what triggered them to come in? Because I'm already a little, just with this program, the hybrid of, they're not really there, they're at home, and,
Right.
and all that sort of thing. So I guess what in your mind, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how it got triggered.
So the hybrid or what the services that they were offering were at-home services. It wasn't for on-site services. And so if they wanted to offer these grade levels on the premise, a conditional use needed to be approved stating that it was offering these services because of the previous one only allowing up to 6th grade. And so even though they were already offering a hybrid, as you were stating, or in-home services, those students were not being offered that service on the premise. So it's almost as if you have an existing use that clearly states you can only operate until 10 p.m. and a new business comes in and wants to open to midnight or 2 in the case that we've had these applications. A new CUP needs to be approved to allow that. And so the situation is they needed to apply for a new CUP to be allowed the K through 12.
So their existing hybrid program was going to get a little more hybrid-y, and then they approached you and said, well, we may have a few folks coming in actually at the campus, not through this homeschooling, and that's why this got triggered.
Right. So initially and this has been a while now, Dave can attest to it. The initial conversation in my mind plays as I want to offer 7 through 12, as other charter schools do. Research went into the previous CUP, which stated they only allowed up to 6th grade, which then, it was stated that they need to apply for a new CUP, and so the process started.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned that the previous CUP was old. What's old? And what's your definition of old on that?
It was my age, I guess.
It was in because the reason. No, there's a serious reason for the question.
Mm-hmm.
The question is that Springs has basically been teaching for the last 4 years at this campus, not 50 years. Okay, and so they, as an entity, are the education side, which is where I'm assuming the CUP is being assigned to. Okay, so old in my book, you just said. I mean, I'm old, but the fact is, 4 years is not old. So I'm trying to understand how this process works, because that's critical in this particular discussion as to who is responsible, who owns who is the CUP out, who does it belong to today?
The previous CUP before this application was in 88.
Was what?
1988.
Which is back beyond. That makes it confusing to me now, because it's 1988 was the CUP, and that's old. We all agree that that's old, and now it's being updated, which says when Springs came in to take over this process, this education process, the CUP was not updated at that point in time.
It wasn't required to be updated because the current operation of a K through 6 has always been there since 88.
So the CUP is for the church, not for the.
No, it's for the school.
Okay.
So
I'm confused on that because the school took over.
No.
Took this over.
The primary use on the property is and has always been a church. The school component came in 80s, and that allowed a K through 6 school to operate, limited to K through 6. The use of the school has always been there since the last CUP, and so with any change to the operation of that CUP, a new one would need to be process.
Wouldn't a new management team coming in to take over that thing be the change?
It was running with the property.
Pardon?
The CUP was running
Running with the property.
CUPs are owned by the property
It's the
owner.
church.
Right.
Like a
It's
new
the
restaurant.
church that's running
Like a new
that.
owner of a
Okay.
restaurant.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Beatrice?
Yes. What percentage is your homeschooling and online school and classroom teaching, like for each one? Do you have an idea?
We have about 300 students total, and but about 150 of them are homeschooled. And so we have about 150 K-6 that are in the program currently.
Okay. I have another question. I did visit the site, by the way, because I live really close to there, but past the 500 feet, so don't worry. So let's say that you do want to increase enrollment, correct? How will you recruit the students?
Generally speaking, we attend all the local events and activities. Our local teachers and our principal, who's here today, will attend events, and we usually have a little booth, tell people about us. We are a choice for, generally speaking, for students who are not thriving in the traditional public school, or whose parents just want something a little different. They want to have more involvement with their kids. And more involvement in the curriculum. So that's generally how we do it. We do sometimes send out postcards. We may, in some cases, run some sort of ad, like at the movie theater or at the, something like that, like a bus stop ad or something, because we want people in the local community to know about us. It's very important to Orange County Department of Ed that our enrollment mirrors the demographics of the community, and so we definitely don't want to be skewed in any way in one demographic or another that's not reflective of the community.
So what is your focus for this school? Because I'm familiar with some of the charter schools here, like Seoul and other schools, because I visited your website and you feature like students of the month, and most of the students that were featured on there have been painting or dancing or singing since like they were 2 years old. So what is your focus?
Now, our focus is personalized learning. And personalized learning means different things to different people, but for us it means that we take every student from wherever they are, wherever their skills are, we give them a diagnostic the first day they come into our school, and we set goals with them, and they track their goals, their progress towards meeting those standards. A lot of our students come in below grade level, so they would start below grade level. They would work on mastering. We have mastery-based grading, all based on the Common Core State Standards, and the students can meet the goals at their own pace, however much practice they need. In addition to that, that's on the skills side, but on the other side, because we're personalized learning, we care about the students' interests and their things that motivate them and they want to do with their career, et cetera. So we're going to the extent possible, and according to what program they're in, we're going to teach them those skills through the things that they're interested in. So if a child is really interested in history or whatever, they would learn a lot of their skills through studying historical events and activities and things like that. It's easier to do when they have a significant number of days that they homeschool, because we can gather up those lesson plans and activities for them to do at home. It's a little harder to do in a class of 30, but they have passion projects at that center, the K-6 kids, and they each work on their own activity that they are interested in. They're very also community connected. We believe the community is the classroom, that learning should not be just happening in a classroom. Of course it isn't, because we all learn every day where we go out and about. So for us, all those community events and field trips and things are very important.
Okay, I have two more questions, sorry. And one is, what is your retention rate like of the students? Like, let's say someone started now TK, it's 2 years old, but kindergarten, do they stay throughout the whole?
78%. We do this. We look at our retention every single year. 78% at this location.
And lastly, I was looking at some of the ratings, and I understand that some of the turnover is pretty high. What do you think? What's the problem? Why is it so high? Some of the people were saying, they're trying to push Montessori type of teaching, and some the pay is low.
You mean the turnover of teachers?
Of the teachers, yes.
Well,
because you have other schools. Can you tell me the name of the other schools?
The other schools?
Like
River
West
Springs
Academy.
and, So I would say it's different at each site. We are a grassroots charter school network, and every location really is built around the desires of that particular community and the skills and abilities of the teachers and the principal at that location. So what's happening at one of our other locations isn't necessarily indicative of what's going to happen here, because we're not a cookie cutter. We're not like some charter schools where every school, they're on the same page of the pacing guide on the same day throughout the network. That's not us. Like, we're personalized learning, which is why adding scope and sequences to our charter petition, it's like, well, did you read the charter petition? Because we said we're personalizing learning, so the scope and sequence is going to be different based on the child's abilities and interests in it. It's going to really be a separate scope and sequence for every student.
Sorry, and one more question. So per teacher, how many students you would say they have? So
the 28 to 1 or less, generally speaking. I mean, there are some times when there's an over-enrollment in one particular class, but I would say by and large our average is under 28 to 1.
Thank you.
Plus, also we have an instructional aide in every class, so we have 2 paid adults, trained, paid, and caring for those students day in and day out for the entire day. So that was very important to us because in order to do personalized learning, you have to know the children, you have to know the system, and you have to give them ability to go around the class and work on their own things so that not everybody is doing the same thing at the same time all day long.
I understand you have both the in-resident as well as the homeschool student. I want to know what is your maximum capacity, what a maximum student allow at one time at your institution, Cycle Spring?
Well, I mean, in terms of the limits of the CUP?
That's correct.
I think it's 250 or 260.
It's 13 classrooms.
13 classrooms, so maybe it's a little higher than that.
Yeah, it is.
Is that number
Because
allowed?
we're using, like, for example, we're using one of those classrooms as a gathering space. We're using one of those classrooms for special ed. So it's not like we're using every class to fill up with 28 students.
I think a number of occupancy determined by the fire department, isn't it?
Right. So the fire department and building inspector or building official. If you wanted to know the total, if we just multiplied that 28 by 13, technically it'd be 364. But she is mentioning almost 100 less than that.
Sure, I understand.
And occupancy would come in at that point.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
Yes, it was forwarded earlier this afternoon.
Okay. And at this point in time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. Please fill out a card with respect to the secretary here.
Greetings, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, city staff. I think from a policy point of view, you haven't addressed the traffic issue. I travel through that street on a daily basis. I think the traffic issue has been overlooked. I'm just going to make some real brief comments. One of my concerns is I did an online search, and there were negative comments from teachers, from former teachers. And as you guys are making decisions, you guys need to be making decisions that are in the best interest of the children. Because basically that's what it comes down to. Everything that you guys do affects our children, whether it's the traffic or the building or stuff like that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that they mentioned that they weren't approved by the Santa Ana School District. There are other charters that have been approved by the Santa Ana School District. The Santa Ana School District has strict guidelines for charters, and it builds into those guidelines accountability. And I think that one of the things that's frustrating is that when a school doesn't meet those strict guidelines from the district, they go to the Department of Ed, they go to the state of California, and the Department of Ed and the state of California is infringing upon the rights of the board within the Santa Ana School District to make those decisions on what types of entities come in. And the bottom line is that any decision that you make should be in the best interest of the children. Ms. Mendoza asked the question, how many charters have there been here within the city that didn't succeed? And as you guys are making those decisions, make those decisions, like I said, that are in the best interest of the children, and decisions that are going to be long-lasting. If you guys are going to approve something, it's because you want them to be part of the community and you want them to be here for a long time, not to be here today and then disappear tomorrow. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Let me do this. Bring the question back.
Alfonso?
Back after the public speaking. Would you like to speak? Okay, please come up and identify who you are and.
My name is Marla Martindale. I'm the director of the Independent Study Learning Center that happens at the site at Santa Ana. And I just wanted to let you know that those students that attend that are independent study come throughout the day. So a lot of them don't come first thing in the morning or in the afternoon, so there's not quite the traffic buildup that there is at a traditional school. So there's that. I also wanted to say that many of the students that will go on to the high school program also have siblings in the younger grades. So oftentimes that mom will be taking all of the kids at once, so it's not as if you'll get a huge influx of high schoolers coming, that many more cars. It will typically be that family. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to say that as well. Not as big an impact on traffic as you may think.
You have
Thanks.
3 minutes to talk on whatever you'd like to talk, so that's it?
That's it. Thanks.
Any other public comments at this point in time? Please come to the mic, identify who you are, and then fill out a card afterwards.
Good evening. My name is Monica Lopez. I'm the principal at the Santa Ana Student Center with Citrus Springs. I do want to talk a little bit about the students and who those students are. The majority of the students that we receive are students that choose to come to us. We have a high success rate when they do come to us. We've had success with our achievements, both in ELA and math, and we continue to strive to continue to improve those and close the gap of our students. As Ms. Martindale did address, we do have a lot of our families that have multiple siblings that start from kinder and move all the way up into our independent study programs. So we do want to make sure that we offer those services to our families. As far as our traffic, I know the gentleman had some concerns. We do have earlier start time and later start time and end time. So our traffic is normally starting at about 7:15, 7:30. By 7:30, all of our students are on campus. We do have the middle school that's right next to us that is also, they actually start at a later time. They start at about 8 o'clock. So by the time that school starts, we're actually already in class and we are dismissed after them. So the traffic is a little bit light when we are in session. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this point in time?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sofia Hernandez. I live in the area. I have lived in the area for the past 15 years. I live on Linwood, which is the street right next to it. And I will probably oppose, and I will say to you, maybe consider it, because I'm a mom for 3 kids. I have one 28, I have one 19, and I have one that is 18. And I have the experience for these 3 kids that they're in a different, I would say, while they grow, it's a different type of learning that they need. So K-6, I would say they're in the same range, but when they're in high school, it's a totally different atmosphere that they are in. And I just consider that these kids, they need a different environment when they're in high school, that they need other environment. I mean, they'll probably go with the little ones and make them feel that they're not home, or make them feel that they don't belong there and things like that. I'm talking about bullying now that we see everywhere in high school, that we're seeing now in our everyday living. So I would say maybe consider that. And these is small kids, that they need to be treated how they are treated, which is K-6. That's where they belong. For high school, it's a different role. So thank you very much. Consider that, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. We'll bring it back to the commission. Cynthia, did you have one? Alfonso.
Alfonso, can I ask you a question as a school board member? Could you share, or do you know how many homeschool programs SAUSD has?
I can't give you a number at this point, but we do have homeschool programs. We have independent study programs, and we have programs that are tailored to meet the individual needs of students, those that don't function in traditional classrooms.
Okay, so, but you're saying there are homeschooling programs?
Yes.
Available?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point in time? All right, Beatrice?
I'm just a little bit concerned about the online teaching for K-12. I'm not sure if there is enough data that supports that those kids are learning. And also with the new incident that happened in, I think it was Paris, with the homeschooling, I know that the state is taking action into looking into, do we, update our laws with homeschooling. And I personally have tried all types of education for my children. I have a 21-year-old, I have an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. I've done charter schools, I've done private, and I just feel that public school for my kids is the way to go. And this week actually is National Public Schools Week, and I'm very involved with my children's education, and for that reason, supporting public school, I feel like I cannot support this, especially because you're saying you want to teach 6 through 12, but it just doesn't make sense to me why you're getting a permit when you're not going to have students there. And so it's just, I think I need a little more time to even do research about how that could be, because then it would say that you would be possibly not admitting new students, since those that are in 6th grade are going to go on to, the same students are going to go on to 7th grade. So it's just my concerns. Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really what this application is about land use. Is this a compatible land use? And until I received a staff report, I didn't realize this land use was there. There's no signage, no nothing. It's just kind of a peculiar thing. When you go by Santa Ana High School, and Santa Ana High School is tucked behind Henniger Elementary, you still know it's there. I mean, there's something about it. It's part of the community and everything. On this particular issue, I appreciate Trustee Alfonso bringing up the fact of traffic. I use that post office at Grand and Santa Clara from time to time, and yeah, it's very awkward situation along there, as I'm sure Commissioner Mendoza knows very well from where she lives. So I'm not really 100% comfortable with this either. I don't feel comfortable with what we're approving. There's, the term hybrid kind of seems like the word Smurf. It's just kind of put in there to address these ambiguities, and I just don't feel like I'm able to approve something that I'm not really 100% on. And, maybe there was a reason why Santa Ana Unified wasn't comfortable with it because of the ambiguities. So I'd like to hear from my colleagues, but at this point I'm not 100% confident in this application.
Anybody want to comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Ken?
In opinion, the quality of education or educational for your own children, that lie responsibility between parent and teacher. And what we talk about today, in my opinion, if we talk again, agree with Commissioner Becerra, this is a land use. The decision to where to send the children to, your children to school, which school you want to send the children, that's up to the parent. And after the parent carefully evaluated institution, location, what the institution located at. And for example, a lot of valuable home and increase in value because there's good school around, nearby the good school. So parent can feel comfortable, can send the children there. I have to admit, all my children are attending public school. But 30 years ago, when my children growing up and starting high school, my biggest concern in high school in Santa Ana, because back then high school in Santa Ana full of problems. So I had to send my children to Fountain Valley, and even thinking about moving to Irvine because I have learned Irvine have better school system. But again, I committed. I love my city, love the city of Santa Ana. I like what I send it. But again, the quality of the institution and the school, where the parent want to send the kid to, I think have to live up to a parent. Some private school is very good. Some is not so good. Some public school is not so good. Some are very good. Like new school just opened up high school, like Sugarstream High School. It's considered very good high school in Santa Ana. I'm very proud to live near the high school. And I think, again, we focus back on the land use and the grant CUP permit. I would support the CUP because it allow the institution we're offering to education to the existing student and any future student of this institution.
Any other questions or comments? Lynette?
I'll just make a comment. My understanding is that up until now, they've been operating for 4 years with the 7 through 12 grade kids doing their homeschool and their independent study. So I really don't understand why there's a need now to bring those kids onto campus if they're thriving in their homeschool and independent study courses. And that would just, that didn't resonate to me why there's a need if those kids are thriving in their homeschool programs today. So I don't feel that there's, in my opinion, that this is going to make a difference to how they currently operate. So I'm not in favor of approving the CUP today. Thank you.
Okay. Some clarification I think we have to have from a legal point of view here. I guess, or let me ask of the applicant, I ask one question. Today, it is TK through 6. Is that correct? That's all it is?
On campus.
On campus.
This is to expand the last classrooms for the 7
And so so this allows it to bring the
kids
student
onto
back
campus.
on campus if they want to choose to be on campus. Okay?
I think that's because some of the grades get higher, the courses get higher, 7 through 12.
Right.
And sometimes you need the in-classroom
Okay?
education.
Okay, so from that standpoint, again, we're coming back to just land use, and the land use is that this is a school.
Correct.
Whatever type of school it is, be it private, charter, or public, it really doesn't, it's a school. And I think what I think we have here, I mean, my opinion, and I'm just throwing this out, am I in favor of charter schools? No, not necessarily. but I understand they exist and everything else. The fact is that it is a school that's changing how they're going to be servicing their students. However they do it, it's really not, we're not here to dictate that aspect. We're here to dictate the land use. Okay, so I think I bring this up to everybody because I think a lot of our questions are built around the type of education they're getting and not the fact that it's just an educational institution. So from the fact that the type of education may not agree with us, that's one thing. But I think we have to look at having this, if this is going to be a school, and it is a school at this point in time, we need to take that portion into consideration and vote accordingly. Go ahead, Beatrice.
Can I ask why the T wasn't included in here? It says K through 12. I mean, is that a typo or? Because I did drive by the school and it said TK, enrolling now TK, but here it says K through 12.
The original application stated K through 12. We have been working with the applicant for a number of months now, going through the DRC process, and at this point, it might have been something that we overlooked to include. But if the operation, if the TKO is something that they wish to do, it's always an amendment that you are able to make, I believe.
Okay, Bill?
I agree with what everybody's saying as far as this is, again, a land use question. I think it is important, though, that we do understand how the school operates, because that in itself will impact traffic and other features that will affect everybody that's not at the school. So I think it is important to understand it. It really isn't in our place to get into the whole grand debate of charter versus public schools. That's fine. But I do think it's important that we are able to understand what's being offered here. Again, I'll just restate that I feel it's a little ambiguous for my taste to what they're offering. And so, again, I'm a little uncomfortable with this particular application. But again, yes, we do need to see it as a land use issue. And I think that some of the operational features expressed to us tonight fall right into that category.
Okay.
Commissioner Becerra, is there any information that we could provide, that could be provided to you that would clear up those ambiguities?
I don't think it's
land use issues themselves.
Not from staff, no, thank you.
Because the land use issues that you would be considering would be the impacts on surrounding uses, correct, including traffic patterns, and I believe that they stated that their traffic patterns were off, not in sync with the other ones around them. Are there any other specific questions that you would have about their operations that would clarify for you what their impacts on land use would be?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Is there any motion at this point in time? Because we don't have a motion at this moment. There is no motion. All right, well, I will make a motion with regards to this, and just make a motion to the condition, on the recommendations of the conditional use permit from staff at this point. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Is there any further discussion at this moment?
Just for clarification, so you're recommending that we adopt the resolution for the CUP?
I'm saying that at this point in time, yes. I mean, I'm just moving this ahead to come up with, a process of where we're going to go with this. Any other discussions, any other comments on this? Okay. Were you going to say something?
Go ahead and give a motion and a second.
Okay. All right, then at this point in time, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
So we have a 4-2-6 denied. And Eric Alderetti is, 4-2, sorry, 4-2.
Can we take a roll call?
We take a roll call.
Commissioner Becerra?
Nope.
Commissioner Verino?
No.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo?
Yes.
Chair McLaughlin?
No.
Commissioner Mendoza?
No.
Commissioner Nguyen?
Yes.
4-2.
4-2. Okay. Thank you. Now is the time and place to consider item number 4, variance number 2018-03, to allow the construction of a single-family residence and detached garage with reductions in required lot size, lot frontage, parking setbacks, and modified lot coverage located at 123 North Jackson Street. Do any of the commissioners at this time have anything they wish to disclose regarding this item? Hearing none, Jerry, would you like to give the presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. This is an application for a variance number 2018-03 for a new single-family home located at 123 North Jackson Street. So as previously mentioned, it's a variance to allow the construction of a single-family residence with a detached two-car garage on a currently vacant property. The subject property is zoned R2 and is primarily surrounded by single-family homes and duplex. Just north to the subject property, you do have a duplex, and south to that is also a duplex. Again, primarily surrounded by residential uses to the north, south, west, and east. This is just a picture of the current conditions of the site. The property owner did remove the shrubs and as well as scrape most of the site. So this is not a current picture of what the current conditions of the site are. So again, the applicant is proposing to construct a single-family residence, approximately 1,139 square feet, with a detached two-car garage, which is approximately 440 square feet. The house itself will have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, dining room, kitchen area, as well as its own laundry room. These are just some elevations of the proposed single-family. The applicant went with a craftsman's architecture, and so this is the elevation to the front, as well as the side elevation to the south, and then these are the elevations to the rear and to the north. So in terms of the site plan and why the applicant is here on your behalf today is because they are requesting multiple variances. The first variance, they're requesting a variance to allow a reduction in parcel size. This particular parcel was legally subdivided in 1925 with a lot depth of 120 and a width of 30 feet. So the second variance is to allow a reduction in lot frontage. Current code, any single-family residence or any development of a single-family residence in the R2 are subject to the R1 development standards. And the minimum requirement for a lot there is 50 feet. But again, I just want to clarify this is a legally subdivided lot. So the 2 variances are kind of pre-existing already. And then the third variant that they're requesting is an increase in lot coverage. Per the R1 development standards, the maximum lot coverage we allow is 35%. So that is more or less the total square footage that a property can develop. It would be the total lot size divided by 35%. They're actually proposing to exceed that number to 45%. But just to give you some contrast, this particular property, as mentioned, is located in a predominantly R2 zone. It is R2, and technically they are allowed to develop up to 50% lot coverage. But since they're only developing a single-family home, they're subject to the 35%. So in terms of the lots to the north and the south, those 2 properties currently exceed the allowable 50%. In addition to that, they are requiring an encroachment to the rear yard. This is for the garage itself. So normally at any single-family residential property, you have to have a 30-foot setback cleared, and that needs to be yard space. And we do allow 35% of that area to be encroached for a 2-car garage or an accessory structure. And the last variance that they are requesting is to allow a reduction in off-street parking. Per Santa Ana Municipal Code, a single-family residence for 5 bedrooms or less required to have a 2-car garage, and in addition to that 2-car garage, they need to provide 2 additional paved parking spaces. Taking the site constraints and working with the applicant, staff believes that the proposed site plan and taking into consideration the open space, the addition or the reduction in parking is pretty much satisfied with the increase of open space that they're providing. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve variance number 2018-03 as conditioned.
Thank you, Jerry. We'll bring it back. Does the commission have any questions of Jerry? None? None? Is Lisa in the back? Yeah. Can we get her out here for 1 second? I just want my own clarification. I don't want to go down this road we did before. Just a quick question. We have 5 recommendations here. We have no, if 1 or 2 are denied, are they all denied? Do we have anything that we have to worry about here as far as approval or disapproval of?
If 1 or 2 of A through B?
Yeah.
If 1 is denied, this project cannot go forward.
If 1 is denied, the project can, okay. I just wanted to get clarification on that. All right. That's fine. No other questions of staff at this point in time. All right. With that, we'll go to the applicant. Would the applicant like to speak at this moment?
Good evening. My name is Fernando Niebla. I'm with 1G Architects. I do not have any comments at this point, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions of the? None? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
We have not.
We have not. Terrific. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up a public hearing. I do not have any cards at this moment, but if anybody would like to come up and speak, they have 3 minutes to speak. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Chair, we have a discussion. There would be a way that
Just to clarify, Commissioners, you can deny one of the variances. However, staff is requesting approval of all of them. If you do deny one, then the applicant will have to go back to the drawing board. Just to take into consideration the lot size, any reconfiguration of this, it's not a viable product.
Right.
Which variance would it be that we could not, or that we could not approve that would somehow?
So the last 3 are basically up for discussion. The first 2 is basically on determining the lot size and lot width. So if you deny, let's say, the parking requirement, or any of the last C, D, E, will require the applicant to go back to the drawing board and figure out a better site plan to address those development standards.
Okay. You'd end up with an extremely small house, though.
No.
Maybe not be viable.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can.
Hi there. My name is Ronnie Sandoval. I'm the director for Civic Center Barrio Housing Corporation. We have property just down the street, and so our concern is parking space. I heard reduction in parking, and that concerns me because my tenants don't even have anywhere to park. Neighbors next door have 12 cars parking every which way, and so that's my only concern, is just take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public speakers at this point in time? Hearing none, we'll close the public speaking. Bring it back to the commission. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I mean, even though we have this option not to approve the last 3 variance requests, I think overall, given what the architect has done, I think it meets what we would consider the spirit and intent, trying to meet the development standards while at the same time allowing the applicant to reasonably enjoy their property. And I think that the city's better off having that site developed with a home, given what we talk about as far as housing shortages and what what was on the site as of that picture. It didn't look like it was being of much use to anybody other than probably for vermin or something, foliage there. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving variance number 2018-03 to allow items A through E as conditioned.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. And
Second,
I just
Linda?
wanted to say,
Go ahead.
everyone here knows I'm not a big fan of small lots, but I think that's the wave of the future, and with the housing crisis that we're in today, I think it's necessary that we have to, make these adjustments. And today there's nothing there, and tomorrow there'll be a house housing a family. So I think whoever moves in there is going to obviously know the parking situation, because I think it's obvious when they're going to be moving in there that there is. So hopefully they'll be utilizing the garage for their cars and their driveway to place their cars there. So with that is the reason for my second.
Just one question I have, and that is just on the parking. I know that, it is wild over that street. Just going through that street and seeing the property. We have 2 spaces on this property at this point in time, correct? 2 garage spaces.
That's correct.
And the minimum
driveway,
the minimum standard for that property is?
So our code requires 2 enclosed parking spaces and 2 paved spaces along a driveway.
So it's 4 is the current standard.
Correct.
Okay. So it's going to be two parking space less. All right. Any other questions? Comments? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Eric Alderetti is absent. Okay. We'll close on the business items and bring it back to the staff. Does staff have any comments at this point in time?
Just that we'll be sure to let the Hagani family know of your intent to adjourn this meeting in his honor. I'm sure they'd really appreciate it. He spent 2 years here, but they felt like a long time. He was full of energy and full of life, and we definitely missed him when he left, and we'll miss him even more. So thank you. We'll be sure that they get the word of what you're doing for him tonight.
Any other staff comments? Phil, comment?
I want to make one comment.
Oh.
Item number 2 was a vote to deny the CUP for the school.
Yes.
And we have made the findings. Staff recommendation was to approve it and make the findings. So
Yes.
I need to know what's put in the denial resolution. Under what circumstance we're denying it.
Okay.
Can we go around?
Well,
You wanna-
together,
can we-
if we could, so I could make the findings of the resolution for denial.
Just to clarify, we just need to make a finding of one finding in denial. When you approve something, you got to make all the findings before denial. We just need to make one. So.
Yeah, for me, my denial, I will, because land use issue would be traffic. We're going to be increasing 7 to 12. We've got kids that can drive to school, and that increases the driving traffic in the area with higher grades. So if you want that, you could put that as my denial.
Beatrice, any comment?
No, I think I said what I needed to say.
Bill?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to concur with Commissioner Brina.
Cynthia voted for? Okay. I think that the only thing that can be at this point in time is really the traffic.
Got it. Thank you.
That's really the issue. I think there's...
Actually, if we want to be more scientific, we can say on the findings in the resolution that it did not meet condition number 2 regarding that the proposed use,
Health, safety, and welfare.
correct, of those residing and working in the vicinity.
I just want to make a clarification. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll do commissioners' comments. Ken, we'll start with you.
I have no comment.
Beatrice?
Yes, I have a comment. Let me look for it. Yes. When we do work study sessions, is there any way that we can have like a timeline? Because with the Christ or Savior, I know I had a question about phase 1 and phase 2, and even in this report when we approved it, it's just good to know about the timeline, you know. When does it begin? And every 3 months or 6 months and 9 months we'll have phase 2. You know what I mean? I don't know if they want to do it or if you want to have
A timeline for construction.
for construction, correct. And also, when we're approving some of these permits, like we did the last one in a neighborhood, do they not need to submit a schedule of construction like the church did?
No. Normally, no. Usually when there's an environmental document that requires, for instance, an operating hours, we require.
And also, so then the construction could take place at any time, like
Our
let's say
code says,
6 in the morning?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, not on Sunday at all.
Got it, thank you.
Well, you really want to keep your kids from getting up in the morning. Well,
Sorry, but those are my questions, right? But I just want to say I'm, really sad about the passing of Hussein. Phil and Ken and I got to work with him on the general plan advisory group, and he was truly an amazing, knowledgeable person, and he will definitely be missed.
Thank you. Cynthia? Lynette?
Just very saddened to hear about Hassan passing, and I think it's just a big loss to everyone who knows him or has been surrounded with him or worked with him. So,
Thank you. Bill?
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo Commissioner Verino's sentiments in regards to Hassan. I mean, he was energetic, bold, willing to make decisions and move things forward, and I think that's something that we're definitely missing, and it's just sad to hear that he passed at such a young age. I have one question of staff, and that is, looking at the future agenda items, I see Bristol Street Corridor on there. Is that coming to us at the next meeting?
That's my hope.
Oh.
I'm working on that. I got some coordination going on with my advanced planning team. I'm hoping to get everything wrapped up by this week and to get on the agenda, yes.
Okay. The reason I say that is just because I mean, there's a lot of parts to that, and I know that, I think it was probably early in my tenure that briefly came to us, only to not come to us.
We've had a couple of study sessions on it. We've had extensive outreach to neighborhoods twice because we stopped and go, and it's mainly what essentially is. It's a cleanup of maybe a dozen properties.
Okay.
It's really minor stuff, is essentially when you want to get down to it. And maybe if you want, well, maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll have a study session item on it next meeting. Can I refresh your memory on it? Is that okay? And then come back in April for the actual adoption. How about we do that?
And the only thing I would ask is just, and this would help me personally, I don't know about my colleagues, but to have what the Bristol standards are today versus what you're proposing, just to kind of really understand line by line what we're changing on there. I know the first time it came to us, I remember looking at it, and again, maybe it's a lot different than what you're proposing this time around, but there was just a lot of things where I had questions, really, not even just concerns, just questions. And so I think it would be helpful for all of us to understand that.
Okay, then let's do that. We'll study session at the end of next meeting, and then
This
for
is
adoption.
Bristol we're talking about?
Bristol widening plan, yes.
It's the substandard lots along Bristol.
Yeah, it's those lots, the remnant parcels, yes.
Remnant, yeah, okay.
Yep.
And that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. I think we've spoken enough at this point in time, so I'd like to just go back and once again adjourn the meeting in honor and memory of Hussein Agani, and everybody have a good evening. Thank you.